here talking to Laura Camilleri at the Museum of Dufferin, and Laura's the archivist here. And we're going to talk about Dufferin House.
Okay.
So, ready, set, go. When was this beautiful building constructed?
This particular log cabin was constructed in Mono Township by Nancy and James Eccles when they arrived, we think, around 1850. Mono Township was just starting to get settled. It had been surveyed in the 1830s, and people were arriving with their location tickets in hand, getting ready for their 100-acre plot of land, and they would arrive and see nothing but trees. So 90% of the cabins and houses that you see in Mono Township now were constructed from the local pine, spruce, other trees that you could find, sometimes maple, but not as often because you need those for maple syrup. So they would fell them, carve them into square, they'd square them off is what I'm trying to say, and they would construct these houses. It was the first place anybody would ever have to live when they first arrived.
And can you describe then the construction of this particular house?
Sure. So it's hand-hewn white pine logs, and it would have been done either just by James. I can't say for certain how old his kids were, but they may have had a hand in it as well. And they were sawn off to create an 18 by 20 size cabin, which was a requirement of your settlement duties when you were given your land by the Crown. So this actual house is 18 by 20 in size.
And it's two-story, I believe.
It's a 1.5.
1.5
yeah,
story.
to make it a full 2-story, you have to be able to stand up all the way around.
Right, okay.
You can't up there.
Got
Got to duck in a few places.
Got it.
So it's, they would have laid them in. They are dovetailed ends, and they would have been parged with horsehair or any kind of fluffy stuffing kind of thing they could find out when they were taking down the logs, and parged with lime or any kind of cement style that they could create in Mono Township in the middle of nowhere to parge there. Keeps in the heat and the cool really well.
How long have you had the building here?
It's been here since 1994. People will come here and still think it's called the McCutcheon House, but the McCutcheon House looked exactly like this. It was another log cabin from Mulmer Township that was at our old site when the museum was at Shelburne. And unfortunately there was a fire and the house was consumed. So when they rebuilt in 1994, they found another log cabin of similar structure, again on the Eccles farm, and they moved it here. And it was redecorated on the inside in the style of 1881, which is when the county was formed. And it was helped along by Mary Lou McCutcheon, who used to live in the McCutcheon house that was at the old site. And she was telling us where the tables were placed. There were photos on this wall. I remember the wallpaper on this wall looked like this. She was really instrumental in helping to decorate it as you see inside.
Well, tell me about the typical furnishings that you would find in a house like this, and in fact the furnishings that are in this particular house.
This particular house also has a summer kitchen. So the summer kitchen on the far left would include a pretty hefty wood stove. And you'd be out there in the summers doing your preserving, your canning. A super hot day you'd be out there so you don't let the heat into the main room. Then you also have your kitchen that you use in all the other seasons, another wood stove, and that one is what would heat the building. So there's a series of flues and open grates in the floor that would allow the heat to travel up to the top. And at that time, bedrooms were only used for sleeping, so when you got there at night, you wanted your room to be warm, so it didn't matter how much heat got up there. And as you see, it's a 1.5, so there's no windows up there to let any of the hot air out. On the far side, we've got a decorative parlor that you would receive your guests in. There's a dulcimer in there for Sundays. There's also a Bible for the Bible readings that people would do. At the time this house was constructed, there was a heavy Methodist religion in the area, and Sundays were for rest. So they would sit there and they would read their Bible passages, look at photos, play games for the little kids on the floor, that kind of thing. The upstairs is bedrooms and storage.
4-bedroom home, I think.
It is a 4-bedroom home. Yep, squeezing everybody in there. I think that the Eccles family had 8 children. So there was the parents and the baby. Then you had 2 or 3 girls in one room. The boys were in another room. And at one point there was an aunt living with them, so she would have had the other room and perhaps another child in that room with them as well.
Is there anything else you can tell us about the house that really strikes your interest?
The stairway actually is kind of intriguing to me in that it's not at our regular incline, so you got to be able to like hoof it up the stairs at something like a 70-degree angle.
Right.
So you got to take your life in your hands going up that staircase.
And the glass in the windows, is it original as well?
The glass is in most of the windows is original to the house. It would have been brought up from either Brampton, Mississauga, or Toronto, would have come up on a train. They would have probably picked it up in Orangeville, and it was shipped in barrels so that they were all these small panes and they were in something sticky and gooey so that they wouldn't smack against each other. And they would have been shipped up, they would have taken them out, and they would have constructed the windows on site.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, I've been speaking to Laura Camilleri, the archivist at the Museum of Dufferin. Laura, thank you very much for speaking with us today.
Welcome.
And you're doing a great job here. I'm going to come back.
Thank you. Can't wait to have you back.